Hey everyone, we just saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2 yesterday, and yeah, I just wanted to talk about it for a little bit here. All the old favorites are back. Dave Bautista plays the Jolly Blue Giant, and Chris Pratt in the role he was born to play as Space Chris Pratt. Has anyone made that joke before? Probably. Joking aside, this is a dang good movie. I think in a lot of ways it's actually better than the first. There's more character development of more of the cast. They do some fun things with actually secondary characters from the first movie that maybe we didn't expect to see back again. Yeah, there's more. I feel like they do a bit more more emotional moments. And some of the cinematography and directing too. I mean, it's got a lot of the same good action, but some of the cinematography and directing is a little more more refined. And I think some people may have a tendency to, say the first one is better. And I think that's mainly due to kind of our attitude about liking things that do things first, just more. But just because it does it first doesn't necessarily mean it does it better. I think this one may actually be a little better than the first one. That's not to say that it doesn't have bad points. There's a couple parts where they pretty blatantly do like exposition dumping. I'm thinking like very early on towards the beginning, there's this part where they're talking to this golden lady from this race of golden aliens who hired them for a job, and she just starts going off about how they're this genetically engineered super species, and it's like nothing in the conversation before that led up to that. She just kind of like starts giving them some exposition, and there's a couple of parts in the movie where it does that. Mostly though, it's incorporated in a lot better. Mostly the dialogue is very good and natural. There's quite a bit more crude humor, a surprising amount in this one than in the last movie, mostly revolving baby making and penises, so just be aware of that if you're going to take young kids to this movie. A lot of it'll probably fly over their head, these jokes, but you may have to answer some questions at the end, so be warned. And a lot of that humor kind of comes from Drax. He's kind of been changed to like more of a comic relief in this movie, which that's mostly what he does. Some people may not like that too much, which I couldn't blame you. Like, I can see it getting old. I didn't mind it on this first watch. I don't know if on rewatches it would get a little old, because he does do a lot of comic relief in this, along with Groot, who just is looking very cutesy. I can see that getting a little old too, maybe. But other than that, the plot is very good. Without getting into spoilers right away, like I said, we do bring back some secondary characters that maybe we didn't expect to see again. And we do Yondu and Nebula both come back. Yondu is the Chris Pratt's the guy who raised Peter Quill and the blue guy, and then Nebula is the blue cyborg lady from the previous one. If you need a brush up, but they both come back and actually do quite a lot in this plot. Which I was not necessarily expecting. Like, sometimes you have a general idea of certain things that are going to happen, but you don't necessarily know exactly where it's going. The theme of the last movie was kind of, the usual ragtag bunch of misfits gets together, save the galaxy. In this case, the theme is more about family. Particularly for the main plot line, it's kind of like a father and son. Father and son is, but then it's like there's other ones too, like Gamora and Nebula being sisters, so it keeps coming back to family, the movie does, and it ties it all together quite well. And we have Jeff Bridges comes as a new character, Ego. Kurt Russell, not Jeff Bridges, Kurt Russell. I said Jeff Bridges in the original video, but it's Kurt Russell. In my defense, I'm pretty sure they're both long-lost brothers. New character Ego, who's Peter's dad in this. Now, that's not really a big spoiler, I don't think, because I'm pretty sure that was in like most of the trailers. But I'm going to get into spoilers now. So if you don't want the movie spoiled, turn off the video. Okay, so Ego, Jeff Bridges playing Peter's dad, turns out to be evil, which I was like 90% sure of after he showed up and we saw all his abilities and the things he could do. Although they did a good job like not making it too obvious and then very gradually dropping little hints that something sinister was going on. But I just suspected it. I think one of the big reasons I suspected it was because he's just so powerful, you know? And when someone's so powerful, when it seems like too good to be true, it usually is. And he was just so powerful that the other antagonists of the movie, like if he'd been a good guy, then I don't think they could have posed much of a threat. So I was pretty sure he was going to be evil, and then he was. You know, trying to absorb the universe into himself. One of the better Marvel villains, probably. Not maybe, I don't know if he was spectacular, but he was definitely one of the better Marvel villains. A little more interesting, a little more development and character than most of the other Marvel villains in the movies so far, which are kind of famously bland. His planet, especially when they first came to his planet, they really did a good job of making that look like a cool, beautiful world. Like I said before, they did a lot more with Nebula and Yondu than maybe I was expecting, but it was all done very, very well. Yondu in particular, this movie is kind of about him as much as it's about anyone, which is kind of impressive for a character who was very much a secondary character in the first movie. And the way they introduce him in this movie, it doesn't really seem necessarily like he's going to be such an important character in it. It's just very gradual that we start seeing more and more of him, but it feels very natural. That's one of the things I really have to praise this movie for, because there's all these interlocking, character plot lines, and they all flow very naturally. Like Yondu and Peter's relationship is a big, important part of the movie, and they actually don't spend a lot of time together. Yondu's kind of off over here doing his thing, and he, has some interaction with Rocket that's going kind of with what Rocket's going through in his storyline, and Peter's over here with Ego and with Gamora, and he's going through his thing, and their relationships kind of like come up when they're away from each other. So, we kind of get more of a feel for that relationship, even though they're not together. And at the same time, it intertwines with the other relationships in a way that, thematically works. The movie doesn't feel overstuffed. Even though it's 2.5 hours long, there's important things happening all the time, and it doesn't feel like, any of it is paced badly. Yondu dies in this movie, and this is kind of a send-off of him, and Peter recognizing that, he's his real, father figure after Ego turns out to be evil. Again, it all kind of ties back into family, and it's a rather emotional ending, and it's surprisingly effective because they are establishing all this stuff as it goes on with these characters. I went and saw this with a girl who's not very into superhero movies, and she enjoyed it a lot. I'm getting maybe a little bit of superhero burnout too, but I enjoyed it a lot too. I think the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are kind of like the Marvel movies for people who aren't maybe as into Marvel movies in a way, because they're less like your traditional superhero movie and more like, space action adventure movies. They're not quite formatted in as much like a lot of traditional superhero movies. Like the first one, it kind of was an origin story, but it was just about a group of people getting together. It wasn't about getting powers or anything. And this one, it's not arranged like bad guy does the thing and then we have to stop him. Like, you don't learn until who the real bad guy is until like 2/3 of the way through. And there's some other antagonists. The Golden Lady is chasing after them. But at the same time, like, they're not really that evil. They're not trying to, like, destroy the universe or anything. They're just mad because they stole their batteries, which they kind of have a point about, even if, they're stuck-up jerks. And they're not really, like, main, doomsday villain material. And then we have Nebula, who's just trying to kill Gamora and is a bit closer. And for a while I thought Nebula was going to be more of a major villain character, particularly that part where she shoots off Yondu's fin, and then when his crew mutinies, and then he's taken captive. I actually thought maybe she was going to like take control of the Ravagers and, you know, go after them with that whole fleet, or that whole ship. But she doesn't. She's just kind of like, oh, you know, just give me 10% of the reward, and I'm going to go off and do my own thing. And then she winds up working with them, which I thought worked fine as far as the themes and everything go. So there were some unexpected things for me that happened in this movie. I wasn't expecting, you know, Yondu to have as big a part. I was thinking that Nebula might have been more of a major villain character when she kind of became more of an ally. But I was expecting Ego to turn evil, which he did. But even though, you know, I called some of the major things, they were done well. Even though I knew he was going to turn evil, I was pretty happy with how it turned out. And Peter actually turns on him pretty quickly after he learns that he killed his mom. I did see, by the way, Red Letter Media's review. That was actually the only review of this I've really watched. And they were mentioning that, oh, you know, I wish that he had, you know, struggled with that and his friends had to, like, snap him out of it. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that, just because we've seen that so much in movies. It's such a cliche. And in this one, it's, you know, like, he's kind of already struggling with things, and then his dad just kind of lets it slip that, oh, and I killed your mom because she was kind of in the way of my plan. And then he just completely turns on him from there, and I feel like it's kind of better that we skipped it out of the, you know, you've got to come to the light side, I know there's good in you, because we've seen that so much before in movies, and the way this movie is done, I don't think it would be as effective in it. I don't know, it's just like he gets attached to his dad, and there's kind of like has some conflict with Gamora, but just like the idea that Peter would, you know, be totally down with absorbing the universe based on what happened, it doesn't seem as strong, or it doesn't seem as, you know, like, yeah, I buy into that. So I'm kind of glad that was just done away with fairly quickly, and then they could fight him after the reveal. The other thing I disagree with in the Red Letter Media review is Joel said that he felt like Nebula was kind of a one-note performance. I mean, I guess, which is kind of true, but what other notes do you want that performance to hit? I mean, she's like a sad, angry, broken person, so she's just played as being sad and angry all the time. I mean, what more do you want from that? If she was smiling or joking around, that wouldn't work for the character. Those were pretty much the only two things they said that I really disagreed with. Other than that, I pretty much agreed with them. Yeah, that's pretty much everything. It seems like a very solid, fun movie. That was my review. Now, guys, I'm uploading this actually to my old YouTube channel that I haven't used in ages, and to the new channel Thrifty Gaming that my friends and I are doing now, which is where I've been uploading my new videos. So if you're watching this on my old video channel, just know, I don't know how many of you are still watching. I know I still have like 19 subscribers, but if you're watching this on my old video channel, know that I'm actually doing videos now for Thrifty Gaming. That's the channel that my new stuff's going to be on. So I'm going to have a link to that in the descriptions. So if you want to take a look at that, feel free to subscribe and follow that, and you're going to see some new videos from me. I'm back, I guess. So take care, guys.